What would you say if I told you that Donald Trump himself 110% agrees with the advice given by the Florida Maquis here on this channel? I'm sure a lot of people would shake their heads and go, no way. No way he would agree with you, Maquis. You're an evil socialist. There's no way. Well, I'm going to demonstrate this for you today. In fact, Donald Trump is going to do or say whatever he needs to do or say to make sure that he is on a Republican debate stage going into the next election. It doesn't matter whether he means it or not. He may not even like having to say it or do it, but he's going to say or do it for sure because it's a means to an end. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have also heard that there is this tentative agreement in principle between the Republicans in Congress and the White House over this debt deal, this debt default deal. Just understand something. All they have agreed to do is burn a much larger pile of money than they had been burning. It is the most insane, ridiculous thing that if it was going on in anybody's life, you would say they are on the edge of being homeless. Because what is going on is nothing short of a prelude to Armageddon, and everyone should prepare for this. It is that bad. Imagine if you knew somebody in your life that was in such straits, such financial straits, that they had to beg a credit card company, all their credit cards, to extend their credit lines, lift their credit limits, so that they could then go get cash advances against those credit cards, take the cash, put it in the bank, and then go write checks for the minimum payments on all of those credit cards. And now with the new cash advance money, there'll be even more and more. You would say that person, anybody who would do that, they're on the edge of just not being able to afford anything. They're on their way to homelessness. Now, what is it that Donald Trump and I agree on? I have given all sorts of advice here at this channel about what to do as opposed to being homeless, as opposed to being on the street. Very different for men, very different for women. We're very two different beings in the world. The challenges that will face a man without a home versus a woman without a home, very, very, very different. But you should do whatever you need to do to make sure that you have a home. See, just like what Donald Trump is doing with this signed pledge, that he's going to be required to sign again. It has already come out. Now, real quick, 3 minutes in, just want to say thank you, everyone who's joined us over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel, $1 level, $5 level. I know it's been a while. Tomorrow, for sure, by midnight, I'll say, we're going to have a brand new video up over there talking about survival when it all falls apart. And make no mistake right now, both sides inside the Republican Party are both going to do whatever they have to do to maximize the amount of money coming in. That's what they're going to do. They're going to let Trump supporters believe for as long as they possibly can that Donald Trump has a chance of being the nominee. And they're going to wait until the very last minute, and then they're going to pull the rug out. Because they're not going to have done to them this time what happened to them last time. Now, my specific advice, those of you who haven't watched the channel before, I gave this advice, and I'm going to try to put it in as PG a terms as I possibly could, especially regarding women. All the advice I gave was, if you have a choice between living in your car, going and tactically camping, going to a FEMA shelter, a homeless shelter, or some other eventuality that doesn't give you a place to call home. Perhaps expand your horizons socially to include people that might have been in better circumstances outside of your age group. That's the best way I can say that. Because usually these guys, older guys, a lot more conservative, probably a lot more in line with the way that you would believe. And yes, it would be kind of uncomfortable. I get that. I understand that. It's not ideal. But this is why DeSantis is going to be president. And a lot of Trump supporters don't get this. It's already been decided. Not by you, not by me. You see, in a general election, yes, our votes count. But not when it comes to nominating a person to represent a party. You see, you and I don't have a vote in that. The Republican National Committee is not required to go conduct elections and poll the American people to pick a nominee. And that's the state we're at right now. The Republican National Committee, honest to God, wants nothing more to do with Donald Trump. But they know his supporters are worth a ton of money. And they're going to fundraise off of this idea. You see, this is the person who is going to ultimately decide who represents the Republican Party in the next election. We don't have a say in that. I don't have a say in that. You don't have a say in that. Nobody has a say in that. It's up to the RNC who they pick. And this is the independent. GOP chair Ronna McDaniel says party will try to force Trump to back GOP nominee even if it's not him. You see, last year they waited until Trump was already on the debate stage to ask him if he would sign some pledge. GOP chairwoman, but now they're going to ask him before. GOP chairwoman Ronna McDaniel made clear on Sunday that her party may enforce a planned loyalty pledge meant to ensure that all Republican candidates for president eventually end up supporting the party's nominee, no matter who it is. It was a clear warning shot at Donald Trump, who many have privately fretted, would not support any Republican who successfully broke his hold on the GOP and claimed the party's 2024 nomination for themselves. Some had speculated that Mr. Trump would form his own political party if Republicans rejected his third bid for the presidency. Ms. McDaniel made clear her position on CNN's State of the Union. You see, Trump can go on CNN, apparently so can Ronna McDaniel. Explained that she expected every prominent Republican candidate to sign the pledge, which the party plans to make a requirement for participation in GOP debates during the 2024 cycle. That election cycle is set to kick off in just a few short months with a GOP debate in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Only a short reprieve from campaigning for many politics-weary Americans. Now, we have a poll, believe it or not, since Mr. Trump says polls are believable now and that we believe polls. Here's how things are breaking down in Wisconsin. It's showing Ron DeSantis has a much better chance of contesting Joe Biden than Donald Trump does. And look, I know a lot of you, well, you can't trust polls. Well, if you can't trust polls, why are you trusting Donald Trump's polls that show him winning by some ridiculous margin like 50 points? If we're going to pull polls out of our, you know what? We're going to pull polls out. This one's from Tampa. YouGov America. 42-35, Ron DeSantis. Michigan. Not a big surprise out of Michigan, to be honest. And here's the one that should really pay attention. Amongst people who say they are really hardcore Republicans, yes, Donald Trump does beat Ron DeSantis by 2. But middle-of-the-road Republicans and kind of leaning toward Republicans, it's a whitewash. +7 for DeSantis and not very strong, and +24. You see, something funny is going to happen when DeSantis gets the nomination. He's not going to need Trump's supporters because he's going to pull so far from the middle and even into Democrat, like conservative Democrat areas, that Trump never had a chance that it's going to make up for it. And that's what all the polls are showing. See, this was, Quinnipiac shows DeSantis' favor of Biden 2024 election. 48-46 over Biden. And Biden was 48-46 over Trump in that one. Here's another one out of New York. 48-40. Ron DeSantis leapfrogs Trump in poll of Florida Republicans. So you can pull whatever poll you want out and say this is what this means and that's what that means. But to reiterate my point, see, just like I counseled over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel in detail, and here to some extent, rather than be politically homeless, Donald Trump will do or say whatever he needs to say, mean crawl into bed with if necessary, anyone he needs to crawl into bed with, initially, to make sure he's on the Republican debate stage. Even though he may hate every single person in the Republican Party, he'll do it. Just like he did then. He signed the pledge, made a big deal of signing the pledge, said he'd honor the pledge, and then when it got down to him and Cruz, he went on CNN to renege. And that's easy to find here. Easy to find on YouTube. Everybody knows about it. So now what Ronna McDaniel's going to do is they're going to make him sign it before there's any debate scheduled. And then they're going to run it out and they're going to make a big deal of it. They're going to make a huge, huge deal of it. Sign it without any pre-qualification. No, if they treat me fairly, or, well, it depends on who the nominee is. They're going to get his name on a piece of paper. And if there's any hem-hawing about it or any backsliding about it, he doesn't have to sign the pledge. Let me be very clear. But the Republican Party doesn't have to even include him in their decision-making. He has no right to be a Republican. He has no right to be a Republican. Just like you don't have a right to live in a house you're not paying for. That's why he's going to do however uncomfortable it is, regardless of his long-term intention, he's going to do whatever he has to do to make sure he has a political home, which is exactly what I have counseled. Don't be homeless. You'll stand no chance. It doesn't matter how uncomfortable the situation is. Don't end up homeless. Because it's going to be way, way, way worse. One question I've always had about people that said, I'm going to go live in my car. Okay, if you're going to go live in your car, how in the world... I have car insurance, and I need to have a garaging address. I need to have an actual place where I can get mail. A garaging address. How in the world, if you don't have a garaging address, does that work? Same thing with getting a job. If you're jobless or you have to have some place you can get mail. That's not a P.O. box. So, I mean, if you're not paying insurance on your car, I guess I would have to assume that that's the case, that maybe you own it, maybe it's older and you don't have to have insurance, or you don't have insurance or something like that. It's once you decide to go tactically camp, once you decide to go leave your home and be a homeless or whatever, instead of do whatever morally uncomfortable thing you don't want to do, getting back to having a home, getting back to having an apartment, it's nearly impossible. It is almost impossible because it's a chicken and the egg kind of thing. Because of just how the finances work, and with having to set things up, everybody says, well, where are you staying now? Where are you living now? If you're staying on the street and you don't have a place, or you don't have a friend, or you don't have something like that, it's going to be rough. But I think it's a wonderful analogy. And I think his supporters would counsel him to do the same thing as well, wouldn't you? Do or say whatever you got to do, whether you intend to honor your pledge or not. And no, I mean, it's like, well, is it a legally binding pledge? Well, no, I guess not, technically. But would you want to be associated with somebody who broke their word just because it was convenient? Just because it was convenient and it was easy to do? Kind of a tough thing to say on Memorial Day, isn't it? There's a lot of people out there who went and sacrificed for this country, where the easy thing to do would have been to break their pledge. It would have been an easy thing to run away. And they paid the ultimate sacrifice, honoring their pledge, honoring their word, honoring the loyalty they had to this country. That's why we celebrate Memorial Day. Is this what we want to lift up now? Is this what they died for? Someone to not honor their pledge when it was inconvenient? I'll leave it there. God bless. Happy Memorial Day. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.